In the section 3 practice, we're going to review interval notation. So just to kind of review, brackets are used for interval notation if you have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Parentheses are used if you have greater than, less than, infinity, or negative infinity. If you are looking at a number line, an open circle indicates that the inequality is either greater than or less than, which would mean parentheses. And if you have a closed circle on the number line, that would indicate that the inequality is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, which would mean brackets. So the first examples we're going to look at are expressing inequalities using interval notation. And if you need to draw a number line to help you, you are more than welcome. So my first inequality is that x is greater than 8. So let's go ahead and put 2, 4, 6, 8 on our number line. Let's do smaller. There we go. So if I'm looking at everything greater than 8, so strictly greater than indicates an open circle. And remember that the inequality points to the direction that you're going to shade. So that means greater than is everything to the right. So when I'm looking to write my interval notation, because it's a greater than and it's an open circle, I do a parenthesis. I'm going to start with my value 8, comma, infinity, and then I'm going to close my parenthesis. Another key thing here is if you're struggling where the infinity or the negative infinity goes, it always goes on the side that the arrow is pointing on the number line. So because my arrow is pointing to the right, I'm going to go with a positive because it's to the right, and then that's where the infinity goes. Okay. Next example, we have that x is less than or equal to negative 3. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3 on our number line. So at negative 3, it is less than or equal to. So that would mean a closed circle. And because our inequality is pointing to the left, that means my arrow goes to the left. So because my arrow goes to the left, that means that the left side of my interval is going to be my negative infinity. And remember, infinity always gets a parenthesis, and then comma, and then my value, which in this case is negative 3. And because it's a closed circle, and because I have an equal to, I'm going to use a bracket. Okay. Now we're going to look at the compound inequalities and an or. So first one, we're looking at that x is greater than negative 7 and less than or equal to 6. So on my number line, I'm going to put negative 7 on the left because it's on the left, and then 6 on the right. So I'm strictly greater than negative 7, so negative 7 is going to get an open circle. And then I'm less than or equal to 6, which means it gets a closed circle. And then if I look, greater goes to the right, and less than goes to the left. So they're going to overlap in between negative 7 and 6. So when I have an and inequality like this, the left side of my interval is the left number, the right side is the right number. And then greater than 7 means a parenthesis, less than or equal to 6 means a bracket. So I have an open circle at negative 7 and a closed circle at 6. So for compound inequalities of and, I think they're the easiest because number on the left, number on the right, and then you can have a mix of parentheses and brackets. They can be the same. It doesn't have any restrictions. Lastly, we have that x is greater than or equal to 5 or x is less than 1. So when I'm doing my number line here, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to start with x greater than or equal to 5. So at 5, we're going to have closed circle because it's equal to. And then I'm going to shade everything to the right. Then for x less than 1, open circle at 1, and I'm going to shade everything to the left. So this time they point to the outside, which means there's not going to be any overlap. So key thing, if I have an or compound inequality is I always start with the inequality that contains the less than, which would be the x less than 1. So I'm going to start with parenthesis negative infinity, comma, my value 1, and then because it's a less than and it has that open circle, it's going to be a parenthesis. To indicate or, I'm going to do the union, which is a capital U. Then I'm going to do x greater than or equal to 5. So greater than or equal to starts with the value, which in this case is 5. Gets a bracket because it's equal to, comma, parentheses, comma, infinity, closing with a parentheses. And again, my negative infinity is on the left side, my positive infinity is on the right side, and the arrows indicate which direction they're going to go. So the last thing we're going to do is, working from a number line, figure out the interval notation. And you can do this one of two ways. You can either go strictly from the number line to the interval notation, or you can write the inequality first and then write the interval notation. It's up to you. So for our first example, we're looking at 2 and then everything to the left of that. So when I'm writing my inequality, I know I'm going to have x and I know I'm going to have 2. Okay. Now I need to decide if I'm doing a less than or a greater than inequality. Well, my arrow is going to the left, which indicates that my inequality also needs to be facing to the left, which is less than. Now I have to determine if I'm going to have an equal to. Well, there's an open circle at 2, which means I don't have an equal to, so my inequality is just x less than 2. So when I'm writing that interval, because it's going to the left, I'm going to start with parenthesis negative infinity, comma, our value 2, open circle means parenthesis. Okay. Next we have a number line. We have it shaded between -1 and 3 with a closed circle at -1 and then an open circle at 3. So I'm going to have x, I'm going to have -1 on the left, and I'm going to have 3 on the right. Now I have to figure out the inequality. So at -1, we're going to the right. So that would mean that going from x facing the -1, I need a greater than, which in this case, we don't go in the same way the arrow is pointed, because I'm going to read it from right to left. So it's going to be opposite. So I have to have x greater than -1. Now it is closed circle, so I do need the equal to. And then at 3, it's going to the left. So that means that x is going to be less than 3. Now this one does face the correct direction. It faces to the left. And it's an open circle, which means it is strictly less than. So for my interval, I know I'm going to have -1 on the left and 3 on the right. -1 is going to get a bracket and 3 is going to get a parenthesis. Okay. Please let me know if you still have any questions about writing an interval notation, whether that's writing it based on having an inequality or having the number line.